Hi, this is me, and this is how much I know about crypto. Yeah, I've got no clue. I've got the Binance app on my phone though. I haven't actually made an account, but that doesn't matter. But it would be stupid for me to put money into crypto if I didn't fully understand what it was, right? At least that's what everyone thinks at first, because as soon as you hear your favorite influencer telling you how Bitcoin and Ethereum will be the next currency of the world, and if you don't buy it now, then you're going to miss out on 1,000,000% returns and will be left behind with all the other brokies, it's quite a hard offer to resist. So how does one simply make real life money from a few colourful lines and symbols on your computer screen where you just finished watching 4 hours of YouTube and are now wondering why your life is so miserable? Well, first it's best to wrap our heads around how cryptocurrency works in the first place. Cryptocurrency's definition, according to Google, is a digital currency in which transactions are verified and records maintained by a decentralized system using cryptography rather than by a centralized authority. Now, I personally thought definitions were supposed to help you understand a word and not make you more confused than you were before reading it, but I guess not. But like big man Albert Einstein once told me, if you can make them laugh and giggle, you can make that ass clap. Oh, I'm sorry. What he actually said was that if you can't explain it simply, you don't understand it well enough. So I'm doing this video for the GOAT Albert. Rest easy, my G. Cryptocurrency is digital money. No bills, notes, or coins. It's not based on another asset like gold or Pokemon cards, and it doesn't go through traditional banks that steal your money for their own profit. Apart from if you used FTX, then all of your money got stolen. Instead, crypto operates in a decentralized system using blockchain technology. Now stay with me. When you send money to someone using your bank account, your bank records this transaction and keeps it in their own record, making the bank liable if anything goes wrong in that process. But when you send digital currency to another person, for this example we'll use Bitcoin, the transaction is shared with everyone on the Bitcoin network. This is then added to a shared list of recent transactions, which is known as a block. Put simply, a block is a receipt. Now that seems like it would be a playground for hackers because all of your transactions are online for everyone to see. But this is where the chain part of blockchain comes in. If I were to receive 10 Bitcoin from Bob, I wish that would happen, a block would be created from that transaction. That block stores information like the amount of Bitcoin sent, the date and time it was sent, and other boring details. Now when I go to buy someone's Get Rich Quick course online for 5 Bitcoin, the transaction can be validated. That's because there was a public record of me having 10 Bitcoin in my account from the previous incoming payment from Bob, which was 10 Bitcoin. If I were to try and send 20 Bitcoin, the transaction would flag up as invalid because there is no receipt or block of me having 20 Bitcoin on my account. The chain these blocks make is called a ledger, and ledgers are shared between people that have made transactions with each other, which acts as a public distributed ledger. Those are all fancy words you don't really need to know about. When you make a transaction, you create a block, and that block is then added to a chain of lots of other blocks. So the reason it's so hard for people to hack into is because that everyone that sends a Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency basically has a public record of the transactions that took place. If anything were to be changed to one block by a hacker, it would be pretty much useless because there are multiple other blocks that share all the original information. So if the hacker does change the information in that block, the rest of the chain becomes invalid and the hacker becomes a sitting duck to the blockchain cryptocurrency army. Let's imagine in this situation you're the hacker. Imagine you got caught kissing a picture of Ryan Reynolds on your phone, but then all your co-workers caught you and recorded a video of you doing it on their phones. It would be pretty hard for you to convince everyone that you weren't doing it because they all have clear evidence and recordings on their phone of you doing it. That's basically how the blockchain works. By the way, I'm not trying to allude to the fact that that ever happened to me. I just want to clear that up. Moving on. To actually make a transaction, I'll use me and Bob again for this example. I start a transaction by choosing the amount of Bitcoin I want to send along with my own and Bob's crypto wallet address. Just like a bank transfer using your sort code and account number. But this information is then put through a hashing algorithm. This encrypts that information, which basically means it makes it really complicated and hard to understand. A real life example of encryption would be those very confusing signals a girl gives you when she likes you, but doesn't want to explicitly say it. So she just looks at you funny and changes her body language or whatever. I've been single for 18 years now, so I guess I'm not very good at decrypting. Different digital currencies use different encryption methods. Bitcoin uses SHA-256, Ethereum uses KEKAC256, girls use eye contact. This part in the transaction process also uses my private key, which is a unique address that only I have knowledge of, a password basically. Now this combination of encryption and my private key digitally signs the transaction like writing a signature on a contract. This transaction is now transmitted across the world using my public key, which is the address that everyone in the network knows of, somewhat like an email address. People can see it and send stuff to it, but they can't access it unless they have the password as well. Like the guy that hacked my Fortnite account back in the day. Absolute prick, I will never forgive you. Now, even though this transaction is on the public network, it can only be decrypted by Bob with his private key, and then he'll receive the Bitcoin that I sent him, creating a new block in the blockchain, if you remember what that means. The people that verify these new blocks are called miners. No, not those type of miners. Instead, these miners figure out complex mathematical problems to validate the blocks, and the miner that completes the problem first is rewarded with some Bitcoin. As of right now, that's 3.125 Bitcoin per block, which is an ungodly amount of money right now. So if you've ever wondered why graphics cards were so expensive or hard to find in the post-COVID era, it's because everyone wanted as much computer power as possible to mine as much Bitcoin as possible, or other currencies, because the prices of crypto were going up ever so slightly after COVID. Despite this extremely safe payment network and its benefits compared to traditional banking, it has its flaws. Volatility. Now, if you're a person that loves cocaine and alcohol, then those words might sound great to you. But for someone that likes to play it safe and doesn't want the overwhelming regret and misery of investing in crypto, it's kind of scary. For example, in 2020, if you were to have invested $10,000 into the S&P 500, a well-known low volatility stock, basically meaning it's fairly safe. Now, in 2024, you would roughly have about $17,500, a $7,500 profit for just having your money sit there. Pretty good, right? Now let's take a look at that time frame, but for Bitcoin. If you were to have invested $10,000 in Bitcoin in 2020, now in 2024, your investment would be worth $67,000. So yeah, there's a bit of a difference with your return on investment. However, this is where volatility actually comes into play. The S&P 500 has stayed on a fairly upward trend throughout its history, mainly because it's an index fund split between the top 500 largest companies in the United States. So when you invest in it, a little bit of your money goes to each one of those companies. If the top 500 companies in the USA all go to shit, then there's most likely a much bigger problem in the world than losing your $10,000 investment. Bitcoin, on the other hand, goes up and down rather a lot. Now, I'm going to stick to the investing side of cryptocurrency right now, rather than the trading side. Two very different things, but just know, cryptocurrency is fucking wild. On Thursday, the 1st of August, 2024, one Bitcoin was $50,220.70. 5 days later, on Monday, the 5th of August, one Bitcoin was now worth $42,410.49. This means in less than a week, if you bought one Bitcoin, you lost $8,000 off your investment, which is about a 20% loss in your investment. To put that into perspective, if you were to have a single share in the S&P 500 in this exact same time frame, your share would have dropped from $5,500 to $5,200, a $300 loss, just slightly more manageable. 10 days later, the stock would have returned to its original price at $5,500 again. Bitcoin, on the other hand, isn't even halfway there after 2 weeks. The reason why cryptocurrency is so volatile is because it's not connected to any sort of actual asset. The S&P 500 is connected to the top 500 companies in the US. If they do well, the stock does all right. If they don't do that well, the stock does a bit bad. But these companies are never going to go out of business, so your investment is never going to go that wrong. Whereas with crypto, some fake news can come out on Reddit that this new coin is going to do really well. Everyone invests in it. The stock price goes up because everyone bought it, and then everyone realizes there's no point in buying it, it's useless, and the stock goes down to half a cent. That's how crazy this can get. A classic example of that is Dogecoin. The coin was worth nothing. If you had invested $1,000 in Dogecoin 5 years ago and held until the very peak of the market, it would be worth $70,000 from a $1,000 investment, or at least that's what this article says. I'm not very good at maths. I'm not going to figure it out myself. If you haven't ever seen it, Graham Stephan, a finance guy on YouTube, interviewed a guy that made over $3 million in the peak of Dogecoin, but refused to sell it despite being able to set himself up for life because he thought the stock price will go up even more. Greed is an interesting thing to watch. In all fairness to him though, as of 2024, he seems to be doing well for himself and has made some good money since, so good for him. The overarching point of this being, if you're looking to get into crypto, please be cautious. Maybe put a little bit of thought into it. Trade with some fake coins or fake money that you can get used to the potential wins or most likely losses you'll experience. There is not a person on the planet, no guru, no mentor that has all the answers. Their $50 Discord server or Telegram is probably making them more money from the subscriptions than their Bitcoin or Ethereum trades. Now that's not to say that people haven't made good money from crypto investments. No one would invest in it if no returns could be made. At the end of the day, it's just educated gambling, but instead of men in suits at the poker table, it's guys in gaming chairs that have worn the same pair of pants for 3 days in a row.